أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. So, inshallah, uh, this is our second week studying Surah Al-Fatiha. Last week we studied two phrases. One was Alhamdulillah, and then the second one was Lillahi Rabbil Alameen. So this was the two phrases that we studied. Today we will start with backtracking a little bit. So author elsewhere makes another commentary about just a very brief translation of Alhamdulillah. There are two reasons that I would like to study that. First, to reinforce what we studied last week. But second, author is covering this topic in a way to say it's such a short phrase, but is it really possible to translate Quran to English word by word? And he's going to give a very minimal translation of the phrase itself according to the rules of Arabic grammar. So it's not going to be any interpretation, but it's simply going to be a grammatical translation of this very short phrase, which is going to be roughly a paragraph of text. And from there on, inshallah, we can discuss a little further about Quran's way of speech and how we can benefit more from Quran. Is reading a translation enough? If not, what can we do to benefit more from Quran? So for that, we are going to be studying among the two links that was shared. This is going to be the one that starts with the fifth point. And
just for example, Alhamdulillah praise to God is a Quranic phrase.
Yeah. And the main historical background of why author has written this, maybe we can also briefly touch upon that. In the Republican Revolution in Turkey, there was a time when the language of the country was Turkish, but the letters that were being used were Arabic letters. With Arabic letters, text was being written. With the revolution, that was Arabic letters were forbidden, Latin letters started to be used, and also for the language itself, Arabic words were being abandoned, replaced with some different words. And of course, people are believers. So then there was an interesting project, which was translating the Quran into Turkish. And the main motivation was, as you can imagine, it's not to make Quran more accessible to people, but more so that, so let's translate it so people see what it is really. You don't really need to make it too big in your eyes. It's just a text which is a lot of repetition, and it's not that much of a message-bearing text anyways. This was the motivation. An author in here at this time was making a counter-argument to that, saying that, no, you cannot translate Quran to any language, really, in a word-by-word translation. Quran deserves these lengthy interpretations. And in here, it's going to be an example of just due to the nature of the language, Arabic language itself, first, it's not possible. But then he's going to make further interpretations about how each one of those verses carry so deep meanings. Okay? Because the question can come, it's just a single sentence, we talk about it for 1.5 hours. Isn't this an exaggeration? Or it's just a 600-page book, and if you really think about it, if you condense the text, it's maybe not going to make more than 300 pages, but there are volumes and volumes of interpretation. Isn't this being a little bit of a stretch? It's just a text at the end of the day. Why are you pushing it so hard, right? So this was the background in which this text was written, but after this lengthy intro, let's read and see what it's about. So, Sister Maria, do you have text in front of you? Do you have the text before you? No? Oh, you do. Okay. Would you like to read? Yes. I mean, since you are the Arabic speaking person here.
Okay. Bismillah. Starting from, for example, Alhamdulillah?
Yes.
Okay. The fifth point. For example, Alhamdulillah, all praise be to God, is a Quranic phrase. Its briefest meaning, as required by the rules of Arabic grammar and rhetoric, is this. كل فرد من الأفراد الحمد من أي حامد صدر وعلى أي محمود وقع من الأزل إلى الأبد خاص ومستحق للذات الواجب الوجود المسمى بالله. Meaning, every individual instance of praise from whomever it comes and toward whomever it is directed, from pre-eternity to post-eternity, belongs exclusively to and is the rightful due of the necessarily existent being who is named Allah. That is to say, whatever praise and commendation there is from whomever it comes and toward whomever it is directed, from pre-eternity to post-eternity, belongs exclusively to and is worthy of the necessarily existent being, who is called Allah. The meaning of whatever praise there is comes from the definite article el, which denotes encompassment. The condition from whomever it comes is expressed because the word hamd, praise, is a verbal noun. Since its doer is omitted, it expresses generality in such a context. Similarly, the omission of the object in an address expresses universality and generality. This conveys the condition toward whomever it is directed. The condition from pre-eternity to post-eternity is expressed by the grammatical rule of converting a verbal sentence into a nominal sentence, which denotes constancy and continuity. Let me know when you want me to stop. I don't know any. Okay. The preposition li or lam in lillah expresses the meaning of exclusively belongs to and is the rightful due. This is because that lam signifies exclusivity and worthiness. As for the condition, the necessarily existent being, wajib al-wujud, necessary existence is the indispensable requirement of deity. It is a title used to contemplate the all-glorious essence. The name Allah encompasses all other divine names and attributes, and it is the greatest name. Therefore, it logically implies this meaning. Through this same logical implication, it also indicates the title of the necessarily existent being. If the briefest apparent meaning of the phrase Alhamdulillah, all praise be to God, upon which Arabic scholars agree, is like this, how could it be translated into another language with the same miraculousness and power? Furthermore, among all the languages of the world, there's only one other language that is structurally based on grammar like Arabic, and even that can never reach the comprehensiveness of the Arabic language. The Quranic words emerge miraculously in that comprehensive and wondrous grammatical language. They come from an all-encompassing knowledge that knows and wills every aspect simultaneously. How then could translations into other composite and inflectional languages take the place of those sacred words, especially when these translations are made by humans whose understanding is partial, consciousness limited, thoughts confused, and hearts dark? I can even say and perhaps prove that every single letter of the Quran serves as a treasury of truths. Sometimes a single letter teaches as many truths as an entire page.
Jazakallah khairan. So, yes. Okay. Yeah. So the main point of this one, as I mentioned before, was that the phrase Alhamdulillah, which we translate as all praise be to God, is being extremely, let's say, simplistic translation if we just go with Arabic language. But it should rather be, at least be, whatever praise and commendation there is, comma, from whomever it comes, comma, and toward whomever it is directed, from pre-eternity to post-eternity, belongs exclusively to and is worthy of the necessarily existent being who is called Allah. So that would have been the proper translation of it. And of course, if you read it as such, how much does it mean to you? Because you really need to pause and digest what is the significance of every one of those tiny details. Like, how does it really differ from all praise be to God? Every single one of those details that are implied by the language as a distinction. So this is why at the very end, the author's conclusion was, I can even say and perhaps prove that every single letter of the Quran serves as a treasury of truth. Sometimes a single letter teaches as many truths as an entire page. You will eventually read an example of that, how a single letter of Quran is going to have a single page's interpretation, or how a single letter existence or non-existence of it makes a huge difference. But we'll get to there. Any comments about this part? Yes.
I have a question. Oh, it's on. I thought I turned it off. I might have misunderstood this, and I'm sorry, I missed the class last week, but I understand the point towards the end of the fact that Allah shows that there's a divinity in the choice of the words, and that this comes from Allah is not something that, makes it easy to translate, or, one-to-one word means only one thing. But then how do you explain that Allah has brought down books before the Quran, and we acknowledge that that's part of the Quran, says وَأَنزَلْنَا, books to Moses and Ibrahim. Those languages were not Arabic. I suppose they were Aramaic or Hebrew to some extent. But the point that maybe I'm misunderstanding here, but it's not sitting well with me, is that that somehow Arabic itself as like a superior choice, but that doesn't sit well with me, because there is this ayah in Surah Yusuf, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا الْقُرْآنَ عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ, so that you can understand it, because if it were brought down in Mandarin, in that context, it wouldn't make sense, but it would still be a divine choice if Allah had chosen that. So I'm just kind of trying to understand whether the author is trying to say that there's something inherent about the Arabic language, or that it's only is that it's Allah's word. That aspect is not something that can be confined.
Okay. Very beautiful question. Any answers? What do you think, folks? So the way author is addressing that part is, like Quran is revealed in Arabic language, but you cannot translate Quran word by word to another language. It's not going to be Quran. It's just going to be a super shallow understanding of a person. Because if you were to just translate this single phrase according to just the grammatic rules, then it's going to take at least a sentence or more than a sentence. And he's going to give another example with na'budu nasta'in. Why is there not a'budu asta'in, but na'budu? Why is the single letter choice over there? And he's going to make maybe a 2 pages interpretation of how a single letter carries so much meaning. So his point in here is that you cannot really translate this into Turkish, to English, to Chinese, and then say that this is Quran, because those details are going to be there if you really look into, in this case, barely even the language grammar itself is going to carry many meanings, which you cannot carry in another language one by one. You have to make an expanded interpretation of that. So the trick is, of course, if you think about it, not even reading a translation is another handicap if Arabic is not my language. But if I read translation of Quran in one language from one author, saying that, oh, this is what Quran says, is also a huge handicap. So in this case, knowing that this is somebody's shallow understanding from Quran. This is like, in a way, since we are just stepping out of the month of Quran, how much shall I invest into Quran? Because at least the point in this discussion is to show that Quran is such a treasure, which like at this point with this example, just in the basic sense of the language itself that it's written in, you cannot simply translate it to another language sentence by sentence, like a sentence matching another sentence, and say that this is Quran. No, this is Irkan's understanding from Quran. This is being better reflected if it's an interpretation, right? Because you read some author's commentary on Quran, and then you say this is that person's opinion, right? But when it comes to a translation, do we realize that it is the same? Like when Sister Maria translates Quran, what is she going to sell it as? Is she going to say this is Quran in English? Or is she going to say this is Maria's understanding of Quran expressed in English? So translation of Quran is yet another commentary, but a very shallow one. So I guess this is the point. But for the aspect of Arabic language, the author is saying that specifically Arabic language, because of its structure, embeds so many more meanings in a single sentence. And he exemplified that. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Like, there were a lot of technicalities about grammar, and I guess most of us in here are not Arabic speakers. And even if you're an Arabic speaker, I don't know if you know that much of Arabic grammar. So it depends. So, but at least the point of reading this text was to make that point. Yes.
I think you said the point is, I have to, Jazakallah khairan. So tying everything to our last week's discussion, of course, the point here is not, whether you should know Arabic or not, whether, the translation is possible or not. But the point is that we are trying to understand the interpretation of Al-Fatiha, the ayah, right? The chapter. So we started with Alhamdulillah, and last week we talk about different aspects of it. And here in this text, Alhamdulillah, it is, summarized very nicely. Okay? So that was an example, for instance, when I said Alhamdulillah, it's the exemplification of what is explained here, right? So I find something pleasant, like I read the text and it made me happy because, the way it elegantly puts the things together, I liked it. And this liking to whom I praise, right? And to whom I send thanks. So that's the question. And I said, Alhamdulillah, that this liking is not going to the author. Yes, I am appreciating author effort or author's hard work. Yes, that's true, for sure. May Allah make him, the close to the Prophet ﷺ in his garden, inshallah. But I say, okay, this the pleasure, pleasantness, the enjoyment that I have, it's actually need to, like, it makes me praise the Creator. That is what it means, right? Alhamdulillah. As author says, whatever pleasure you get, wherever you get from, and from whom you get, apparently, doesn't matter. The praise towards this pleasure must go to the one who is necessarily existing one. And then beautifully author says, who is called Allah. So this who is called Allah part, I like to, to emphasize. This is, again, a very beautiful example of how we try to understand Quran, try to understand the belief matters, right? We keep saying that we don't start from a preconception that we, they have in our culture. There's a creator called Allah, and he creates everything. And whatever question I have, I say, oh, Allah does this. The author says, look at the creation. This is what text says, right? So author said just one word. You should expand it to 3 lines. And now within these 3 lines, every phrase he uses needs to be expanded in 3 paragraphs. So that's how it goes with Quran. He talks about the necessarily existent one. What it means? It means when you look at the creation, whatever you see there, like this beautiful child making some funny movements, I enjoy it. And when I think about it, wait a second, I say, the sense I have, these emotions that I have no control over them, right? And this little creature doesn't even know how to talk, how to walk, no offense, right? He doesn't even know how to, they clean himself. Her father had to clean like a few minutes ago, almost half an hour. I mean, mashallah, very, the experienced father, to clean this child. So he doesn't even know how to clean himself. So he cannot, make these feelings in me. That's for sure. So then I say, what is going on here? There's this relationship between 2 things in the creation. And who is making this? And when I study it, when I try to understand, when I say study, don't take it as, please, like as if you are studying maths or whatever, just questioning what is going on. I said, there must be, right? There must be something that has control over both this child and me. Whoever giving rise or creating this child must be the same one who creates me as well, because he is able to, or it is, I don't know what it is, right? It is able to make this connection between 2 of us. So the one who creates us must be the one who can control everything about us. So I came to this conclusion, and the conclusion is there must be. The summary of this conclusion, author says, the necessarily existent one. There must be someone. From the creation, when you say where there must be someone, it is called the necessarily existent one. Okay? So author says all the praise in the creation directs or points to this necessarily existent one. What is this? We don't know. So Quran at this beginning of the chapter says, okay, I will put a name, Allah. You can use it as a summary, right? Not as a starting point. As a summary of your conclusion of these 3 paragraphs. Who is called Allah. Alhamdulillah.
And in this regard, going back to last week's text, which is the second link that was shared. So, author was starting with Alhamdulillah as the first phrase, and as a follow-up to what Brother Birkan mentioned, what it starts with is hamd, like the praise. It doesn't start with the word Allah, but it starts with the phrase hamd. Like praiseworthiness is how it starts the conversation. Like imagine if you are going to start talking to someone about religion, someone about God, how would you start the sentence? Would you start the sentence with God? Quran is giving me guidance. And where does Quran start conversation from? It starts the conversation from things that are praiseworthy. Like there are things that you like, you praise. This is where Quran opens up the conversation. And it says, if there's anything praiseworthy, that praise should go to someone who could only be Rabbul Alameen. Last week, we said that for the example author gave was milk. Milk is a very tasty and nutrient, beautiful gift. It says, only one that you can praise this milk for can only be the one who can really make the Milky Way. Like if you're going to praise the cow, such and such type of a cow, its milk is good, like that breed of cow gives better milk. Now I'm praising the cow, right? The question is, can this cow make the Milky Way? If not, then it's not the cow's job really, and you cannot really praise the cow. This was the idea last week when it was saying that Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So hamd, the praise, can only be due to this deity, and this deity cannot be anyone other than who does everything. This was, in a nutshell, what I remember from last week. If anybody wants to add anything on top of that from last week's discussion. And was your Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen different for the past week or not much? Okay. I guess we need to work on it. So when we say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, inshallah, we'll pay more attention. Okay, you can use the microphone.
Again, I'm sorry I wasn't here last week, but could you summarize by praise? Do you mean anything that's worth appreciation, or what feeling is that evoke? Could it just be just like curiosity, interest, or something like that?
Yeah, so praiseworthy, but what is praiseworthy? Even sometimes when you drink a coffee and you say, oh, it tastes good. Like you're praising it in a sense, or it's a funny joke and you laughed at it. Like something that you like, you start appreciating it. So that any appreciation, any liking inherently points to some sort of a praise in there. Oh, this was a good joke, or this was a good comment, this was a good question. So all these are pointing to some, or even like if there's food and you just eat it very enthusiastically. You didn't even say a word. You didn't even say, oh, this tastes good. But just looking at you, I can say that, oh, you really appreciated the food. So you are praising the food with your enthusiasm in eating, right? So in a sense, every act in this existence points to some sort of a praise. And even sometimes you can even argue, like if you put an Android and an iPhone side by side, you can say that actually the way iPhone stands and whatnot is praising a certain company more so than some other, I don't know, cheap your phone, that's Chinese manufacturer or whatever. So like by its disposition, it is saying that, oh, I am made better. Or like my Camry stands right next to Subaru, and you said that, oh, Camry is definitely praising its maker just by the fact that it stands right next to this not so good Subaru. So praise is constantly, wherever you land your eyes on in this existence, you will observe a sense of praise. And by checking, of course, your feelings, you cannot take yourself out of this equation. And in this case, then you say, to whom does these praises go? And again, going back to the example with the milk, if I praise the milk, the cow, this verse will pause me and say that, could the cow really be the Rabbul Alameen? Meaning, could the cow make the Milky Way? If not, since the creation is so much intertwined, whomever is doing one can be the one who does all, and vice versa.
So one word is used in the text next to praise is the gratitude. And we know that in Quran, the gratitude has a very central role. When the Satan, for instance, just go rebellious, he says, I will make sure that the people will not be grateful. They will not feel the gratitude. That's the biggest trick. And I think almost every the connections we have toward the creation, there is always gratitude at the center. Like you talk about, for instance, curiosity. You are curious about something because there is something special about this thing that raises some gratitude in you, right? It calls for curiosity. You are, enjoying something because there is a thing there which, again, calls you to have this feeling of the gratitude.
So, inshallah, we will study Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And we need somebody to read. Who is going to read us Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim? Brother Abdurrahman, would you be able to read, or are you too? Okay.
I have the babies.
Yeah.
So that's the first link.
The third phrase.
Third phrase of the second link.
First and second. The first and third phrase.
Okay. Bismillah. A concise summary of the noble Fatiha. Part 2 of the single lesson I gave when okay. Bismillah. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the merciful, the compassionate. Here is a very brief allusion to the proof contained in this phrase. Yes, the existence and reality of boundless mercy in the universe are as clearly visible as sunlight. Just as light decisively testifies to the sun, this vast mercy testifies to a merciful and compassionate one behind the veil. Yes, an important part of mercy is sustenance, rizq. For this reason, the name Merciful Rahman is also understood as provider, Razak. Sustenance points to a merciful provider so clearly that anyone with even a grain of consciousness is compelled to affirm him. For example, he provides for all living beings across the earth and in the skies, especially the helpless and the young. He sustains them in a truly wondrous way, entirely outside their own will and power. He raises this sustenance from nothing, and from identical seeds, drops of water, and grains of soil. He even sends mothers out like obedient soldiers to fetch food for their wingless, weak chicks in nests at the tops of trees. He subjugates a hungry lion to its cub, ensuring it does not eat the meat it finds, but feeds it to its young instead. From the faucets of breasts, he sends sweet, nutritious, pure, and white milk, like the water of Kawthar, to the infants of humans and other animals. He sends it to their aid from between red blood and filthy waste without it getting polluted or tainted, and he provides their mothers compassion to assist them. Just as he wondrously makes appropriate sustenance hasten to all trees that require a type of food, he also bestows a vast table of provisions for human senses, which require both material and spiritual sustenance. This table is laid out for their intellects, hearts, and spirits. It is as if the universe consists of hundreds of thousands of distinct and diverse tables enfolded within one another like the petals of a rose or the husk of an ear of corn, with countless tongues, both universal and particular, matching the number of those tables and the amount of food and bounties upon them. They point out a merciful provider and a compassionate, generous one to anyone who is not completely blind. If it is asked, the calamities, ugliness, and evils in this world contradict and obscure that all-embracing mercy, A complete answer to this daunting question has been provided in the treatises of the Nur, such as the treatise on destiny, Risale Qadar. Referring you to those, here is a very brief allusion. Every element, every species, and every being has numerous duties, both universal and particular. Each of these duties yields many results and fruits. The absolute majority of these are beneficial, beautiful, good, and merciful. Only a small portion of them encounters those who lack capacity, act incorrectly, deserve punishment and discipline, or serve as a means for producing many good outcomes. This results in an apparent minor evil or ugliness. It looks like a lack of mercy. If mercy prevented that element and universal being from performing its duty, just to avoid that minor evil, then all its other good and beautiful results would never come into existence. Since the absence of a good thing is an evil, and the spoiling of a beauty is an ugliness, this would result in as many evils, uglinesses, and merciless acts as a number of those missed results. This means hundreds of evils and merciless acts would be committed just to prevent a single evil. This would entirely contradict the wisdom, benefit, and the mercy within his lordship. For example, elements like snow, cold, fire, and rain have hundreds of wisdoms and benefits. If careless and imprudent people use their free will poorly to bring harm upon themselves, for instance, by thrusting their hand into a fire and claiming there is no mercy in the creation of fire, the countless good, beneficial, and merciful uses of fire will prove them wrong and slap them in the face. Furthermore, a person's selfish desires and lowly emotions, which are blind to consequences, cannot be the standard, touchstone, or balance for the laws of mercy, wisdom, and lordship operating in the universe. Everyone sees things according to the color of their own mirror. A merciless black heart sees the universe as weeping, ugly, tyrannical, and dark. But if someone looks with the eye of belief, they see the universe as a macroanthropos, like a maiden of paradise dressed in 70 beautiful garments, wearing 70,000 beautiful robes layered upon one another, woven from instances of mercy, goodness, and wisdom. This immense being is always laughing and smiling with mercy. They will also see humanity as a miniature universe within it, and every single person as a microcosm. With all their heart and soul, they will exclaim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. All praise be to God, the sustainer of all the worlds, the merciful, the compassionate, owner of the day of judgment.
Jazakallah khairan. Your beautiful reading. So, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And as usual, author's general attitude aligned with how Quran is presenting it, reading the speech, but looking at the creation, starting from the creation, which is my experience first and foremost, and trying to see really, is there a merciful creator? Is there a compassionate maker? How do I get to know that? Does the speech, like the verbal speech says it, fine, but does the speech in action, which is the universe that I live in, does it show mercy and merciful, compassionate maker? And as you are thinking about it, as a filler of gaps, I can keep talking. But if you have any comments, you can raise your hand, or any question, please feel free to chime in. Otherwise, I will just pick up words from the paragraph and bring it to your attention. Such as, author is mentioning that mercy, first and foremost, becomes visible to our eyes through sustenance. So much so that he says, Rahman and Razzaq, like merciful and sustainer. Like one meaning of Rahman is really Razzaq, meaning sustainer, is one of the most obvious ways that we experience mercy of the Creator. Practically, I can resonate with that. Like whenever, I guess, after years, if you go back home, how does your mother welcome you? With your favorite food is being cooked, and not only one dish, 5 dishes with all side dishes and whatnot. So this is the way she's demonstrating how much she cares about you. So it's not by chance. Like this is really how human is working. Like if she knew that if she were to, I don't know, write a poem to you that would attract your attention the most, she would write a poem. But she knows how to speak to you, speak to your senses, and it is by making the best of the food. And it's coming from an experience, right? Look at this baby. The baby is in need of sustenance, entertainment, care. And this is what these two poor people over there are doing 24/7. So they got trained really, they know how the language of this child is showing this utmost care, sustaining the child. So applying it to life. Any comments, any questions? I can slowly reread it. Rather, Birkan is going to get afraid of me rereading it. So this is the way to make him speak.
That's my mercy towards others. So you said the first and foremost, the way we see mercy and compassion in the creation is through sustenance. It's very interesting, like the sustenance, like food, for instance. And of course, we can extend it to everything else as well that we need and provide it, like the air, for instance, like I need to breathe. The light is sustenance for my eyes. Okay? And the food is so central in our lives. Most of us eat many times during a day. But still, like when somebody says the sustenance is actually the sign of mercy and compassion, we have to think about it. Like we have to make the connection. It's not, there already. So maybe we should spend more time thinking only a few seconds when we eat that much, that many meals. Just a few seconds, like every time you eat, think about how the fact that you have this food, the fact that it, this sustains your hunger, and at the same time you enjoy it. Because enjoying food, the taste, is so extra when you think about it. Like if you take from just a scientific perspective, it would be more than enough. You put the food, it is digested, and you go, right? Why you have taste and why you enjoy this taste. It is so extra. So whoever giving you this sustenance, not only feeding you, but at the same time feeding you, the feeding itself is mercy and compassion, but the way you are fed, right? It's another level of mercy and compassion. That you enjoy what you eat. Starting from babies, right? You do not just feed them, but you make them, to touch your skin for moms. They can feel your warmth. They can feel, the proximity. How beautifully crafted the entire scenery. So again, the sustenance is the, I guess, as author says, the most obvious sign of mercy and compassion. Let's not take it lightly. Just think about it a few seconds, and I promise you will be touched the way you've been sustained all these years. And then extend it to everything else. The entire universe is full of mercy and compassion. The flowers, you look at them, they are beautiful, right? You see mercy there. And then look how they are, made, the way they reproduce. The insect comes, starts sucking some beautiful thing out of it, enjoys the flower, and then gets some pollens or whatever they are called, right, out of the flower, visits another flower. What is it called? This process, somethingization. Yes, okay, pollinization. Right? When you watch it, it's so beautiful, isn't it? Like everything, like what is going on there. It's not just wind comes and it sweeps all these pollens, takes to another flower. It also happens, but everything in front of you, these, these strange flowers. When you poof them, all these, what is it, like a cotton ball, like, yeah, there are small parachutes, right? They start, flowing in the air, going somewhere else and pollinizing there. It is so beautiful when you think about it. Why? I mean, who cares if it is about the reproduction? Who cares whether it is beautiful or not? Right? But someone cares. Why? Just so that you can enjoy the mercy and compassion, full of everywhere.
I think we can just check this for, like, people in the room can check it for themselves. Because almost half of the room is like parents, the other half is inshallah to be parents. But especially when you're in college or whatever, like this, when somebody asks you, are you planning for a child or something? It's far away. Or even sometimes, like we have career priorities. Or even if you're married, child is too much of a headache. I need to go to hiking trips and whatnot. With the kids, I cannot do that type of an attitude. Could come in. But
message.
Oh, of course, no. I don't know if there's anybody who likes hiking here. But eventually, with the baby, this very same people become lovingly obedient to the child. Like, this is interesting part. Because same you, like, it's common, right? 2 generations ago, our grandfathers used to have 10, 12 kids. Now we are barely having 1, 2. Many people are even willing not to have a single child because it's a lot of job. It is a lot of job. But the same person who thinks as such, somehow, maybe by friends tricking them into having kids or whatever, but eventually, the moment they have kids, how is this mentality totally shifting? It practically does change. Where does this come from? Like, how is it that same person who was thinking that child is too much of a work, it's a headache, it's a burden, lovingly starts cleaning up the dirt of the child? Merciful One is really employing you for that. The author gave the example of a lion who hunts. It itself is hungry, but feeds its cub, like chooses the baby lion over himself or herself. Like, where does this mercy come from? Because the animal is a beast. It is killing another animal, right? But sharing it with the baby. So if I'm going to attribute it to the animal itself, like, you shouldn't kill others in the first place if you really are merciful, you would say, right? So you're observing this mercy being employed even in this very beast of natures. Or if you don't want to go far away, just check for yourself. And I mean, I'm talking about people who are hiking out there, but also, like, to me, having kids were a lot of headache when, like, before marriage or whatever. But alhamdulillah, now we have two. I don't know why don't we have more, but don't ask. Okay. So in this regard, author is really mentioning this, giving the example from where we observe, so that I can really, do I really say Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim? Because it shouldn't be like, I don't think he's merciful, but I'm just memorizing, or since this is what Quran says, or this is what he claims to be. Like, I might be claiming to be the most generous of the peoples, but you would say, come on, Yusuf, you just feed us with chickpeas. What sort of a generosity are you talking about? Like, I might be claiming one thing, but do you observe it in my action? So when the Creator mentions Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, do I observe this? So this is where now the author is saying everywhere is all these signs. I don't know if it's sign or is it just everything shouts at you saying that I am coming from a merciful one. Then author translations, he does this a lot. I would like to attract your attention to how he is using a certain language. Just as he wondrously makes appropriate sustenance hasten to all trees that require a type of food, he also bestows a vast table of provisions for human senses, which require both material and spiritual sustenance. This table is laid out for their intellects, hearts, and spirits. Now he's expanding it. But in this sentence, I would like to attract your attention to the word table. Probably we know Western art more than Quran, but in Quran there is a chapter named Ma'idah. And this refers to, like, Ma'idah means table, or like, what we did was also Ma'idah, like, although it's not over a table, but banquet, right? So, why is this surah mentioned as Ma'idah? Because disciples of Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, asked from him that, asked from the Creator so that he sends down a table, a banquet to us. And now author is saying that actually this banquet is already laden before you. Like, the whole creation is a heavenly banquet, heavenly table laid before you if you are aware of it. And your mother's mercy is part of this banquet, but also the light, sunrise, is a part of it. Or a child's giggling is a part of this banquet. As much as you realize that it is a banquet coming from the heavens. Like, it's, of course, it's a thing on earth, but where does this come from? Because it's, as much as you observe, there it is coming from. Meaning, if you look at it with the lens of, it's going to be too foolish to say that it happens by itself. Such a beautiful banquet, everything put together to my taste, to my ear, to my eyes, to all my senses. That table is supposed to, or at least I should recognize that it is being sent down. And this is how that verse is also mentioned, right? Allahumma anzil alayna ma'idatan minas sama'. O Allah, reveal down a banquet, a table upon us from the heavens. so that it's going to become a Eid, a celebration for us, for first of us and for the last of us, and as a sign from you, sustain us, and you are the best of the sustainers. So in this regard, really, I really loved how the author is interpreting in between the lines what another verse of the Quran is mentioning. So unlike how the Western painter will take it as the Last Supper of Jesus, like everybody's sitting before a table and they're eating, no, the whole creation is this banquet. And it's a sign of mercy.
And if I'm not misremembering, when we studied the Surah Ma'idah, I remember this the word Ma'idah, the root is comes with the idea, refers to the, or implies the action. Like it's not just a static table, but it is filled, emptied, filled again, etc. The same root, for instance, used for the place where the horses race, right? All these action that you see. And this is what we see in the creation. Like in Philadelphia, for instance, it will be so obvious soon when actually it's already started, right? Be careful with the flowers around, right? Almost every 2 weeks, they will be renewed. First, a specific type of flowers comes, and then they go, they finish their job, they die, right? Another type comes, and then another type, up until the summer. You will see that there's almost like a what is it called? The army march, like a showcases all their arsenals. Sorry? Parade, yes. It's like a parade of different types of flowers. Almost somebody shouting, trying to put it inside our eyes that don't you see, right? I'm giving, and then again giving, and then again giving. So this is Ma'idah, right? The full creation, all creation is a laden table, waiting for us to enjoy. And going back to text, what we are studying, the interpretation of Fatiha again, then author says, when you see this ayah, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, how should you understand? Is look at the creation. You will see all these instances of Rahmah, right? The mercy, compassion, and they will, as text said, clearly indicate that there must be, again, the necessarily existent one, there must be one who is all merciful. Why all merciful? Because wherever I look, I see these instances of mercy everywhere. Or from another perspective, whatever instance of mercy I see in the creation, I say that this mercy cannot belong to the thing that I see mercy on. Like this child or mom, I look at the mom, right? I see mercy there, but then I realize, as Yusuf beautifully explained, that I know what is going on in mom's mind if you leave her alone, right? Mercy won't be there. But someone, something, putting this mercy there. Right? Check yourself. If it was left to you, would you really take care of the child? Would you really give anything to a homeless? If it was left to you, you look at the homeless and you realize there's this strange feeling in you, almost forcing you to act. You didn't create it. If it was you, you would say, oh no, I'm rushed to reach my work, right? Just get this gentleman out of my way. That's how your mind works. So you say there must be every instance of mercy wherever you see. You say, no, it cannot be from the creation itself. There must be something beyond who's creating this instance of mercy. There must be, again. So this is how we understand this Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim.
Yeah, so a few days ago, Brother Ali was giving an example like that. He was saying that just you put your head to a pillow, you're about to sleep, and a cat is crying outside, midnight. Can you sleep comfortably? It's not that you are just annoyed by the noise itself, but your heart is crashing. Why is this cat crying? So you cannot help but just go out and feed the cat. So this is not with your choice. Like, you are disturbed so much so that you leave the house and go help. So this is showing that, like, this discomfort is showing that it's not your mercy. You are being pushed, if you like, to act as such. Then you should ask, why am I doing that? Where does this mercy come from? And then there was this question and answer. So the calamities, ugliness, and evils in this world contradict and obscure that all-embracing mercy. Like, the world is not as pink as you're trying to depict, as if the Oscar is saying. There are uglinesses, evils, calamities in this world. Where is mercy in here? Is the question. And he gave an answer if anybody would like to summarize what they get from there, or maybe if still there's a lingering question after the answer that the author provided. Brother Abdurrahman.
Microphone is slowly getting sticky and hard. Yeah. I guess before I come to that one specific, I wanted to focus on how clear the mercy is, and like I was thinking about how clear mercy is. Like, I mean, Brother Vikram was talking about the plants and fruits, and I think that's very clear there. But I think maybe even the most clear way is the mother and child relationship. And even like you look at animals and nature, and like how even like Nursi was saying, the lion, something so fierce and powerful, it goes and it brings food to the young, or it kills and then lets the young eat first. And there, anyone who sees that, like anyone who watches that, and how many times the lion has to try, or other animals out there, like penguins going out hunting and coming back, finding the young and like feeding it, like all these. I think anyone who sees that, it's very clear that relationship is one of mercy. So I think the way God has created this mother-child relationship, it's like, oh, the mercy is extremely apparent, even in more than every other way. But then, as was said, like once you become, let's say, a father or mother, at the same time, you realize before there was not this much mercy, and now there is mercy. And exactly like you said, it almost feels like you are being employed. Like one day you just see, I now have to take care of this baby, and I love to take care of him most of the time. And I have the mercy to take care of him. But that just comes. It's like I'm almost being employed, like it's being given to me. And now that when I look at animals and I see that mercy, and I look at myself and I see this mercy, and I see I don't own the mercy, they don't own that mercy, then the mercy is from one, like must be from one. It makes me see. And then coming to the point about the evil. So earlier the balloon was up in the air and the thread was high, and whenever someone sees that, actually man had seen that, they want to pull it down to like he can grab it. I'm like, no, leave it up there. Let him try to reach up. Let him struggle. I feel like let him struggle to reach it. Maybe he'll learn, maybe he'll fall, like trip, but he'll learn. And I'm the dad, and I'm like, oh, apparently I'm supposed to be more merciful than some stranger, like someone else. But maybe there the idea is he might struggle. I see he might struggle, but there's something to gain out of it, or it's not even like an unbearable struggle. It's like a small struggle, and even he will learn from it, enjoy it. So the mercy is, it's not that the mercy is gone. It's just I guess there's some teaching there, education to be had there. And then the final comment, Nursi was making it clear, like if you look with the perception of your self-desire, or I guess nefs, I'm not sure what the original was, but if you look from that perception, which only cares about its instant gratitude or instant gratification, then everything you see, you can paint it as evil or awful or disgusting. I mean, you can look at, I don't know, like vegetables as evil, probably with that view. If you look at it from the perspective of instant gratification, but then if you look at it from, the word was eye of belief, I believe, the light of belief, then you're not looking at just instant gratification or false gratification. It's a different perspective, basically. And then the world changes how you can see it. So it does require whatever, I guess maybe that can be talked about, or whatever the eye of belief is to look at the world.
Actually, I was looking for that word. My eyes couldn't catch it, but now that you mentioned it, author is, yes, referring to the eye of belief. If someone looks with the eye of belief, they see the universe as a macroanthropos, which means human at large scale. Like a maiden of paradise dressed in the 70 beautiful garments. The author is really using language in a strange way. Author is interpreting what Puri means, if you would like to take it from that lens. It says, with the lens of Iman, like looking, what does lens of Iman mean then? Looking at the universe as the creation, the experiences that I'm going through in life, all of them, and asking the question, this is not for itself, because I am dying. Like eating food or having a kid, I mean, he keeps growing up, and I forget the joyous moments in the past also. Like sometimes Maryam puts pictures of Zainab to some private Instagram account. I look at the pictures and, oh, such a moment we lived. I even forgot that moment. What does this mean? Like, it's not for living itself. I'm aging, okay. So
I said, I follow Instagram.
okay. So the moment, if the point was to live itself, I'm forgetting it. It's gone. Like it's done and it's gone. What's the point? If something is going to get lived and consumed, am I living life just for the moment? It sounds so mundane. Like, think of it like this. You're studying in college and you're not accumulating anything. Would you really invest $400,000 for such a thing? Your hope studying in college is so that you retain something, right? Like I have a child, I enjoy child, but all the joys and whatnot just goes away. Why do I invest in life if everything is flying away? So lens of Iman means it cannot be, it mustn't be as such. There must be a meaning behind what's going on. If I look at things with this lens, then I will start seeing the universe as a maiden of paradise, which has those 70 garments worn on top of each other. What? Because this is how Prophet ﷺ was mentioning a Huri, a maiden of paradise. They wear 70 clothes on top of each other, but still you can see their bone marrows. Like, what sort of a beauty is that? Saying that every layer has a beauty, but they are transparent, meaning one beauty is not blocking the other beauty. When you look at your mother, you observe mercy, but you also observe wisdom. Like she is wearing a layer of mercy. On top of this, there's a layer of another garment of wisdom is worn in there. Another garment, layer of garment caring. Like layer by layer, and one of them doesn't block the other. And you look at this in the entire universe. So author is saying that everywhere around a believer, every believer is surrounded with many huris if they look at it with lens of Iman in this life. And if you see it as such, as Brother Abdurrahman was saying, somebody not giving the child the string of the balloon, or I mean, I have to give an example from teaching anyways, right? So we are coming to the end of today's discussion and I haven't given an example yet. So we have to do that. Like a teacher giving an assignment to the student, but not giving the answers immediately is merciful, because if I give the answer to student will learn nothing. Student will first need to try with what they know, realize the boundaries of their knowledge, and then they're going to get a little annoyed and will try to push the boundaries. And there is a certain speed of learning, and there's the healthy way of learning. If I were to give the answer immediately, this will contribute almost nothing to the learning of the child, of the student. So it's really merciful to let the student figure it out by themselves. And it is so unmerciful to give the answer, hand over the answer to the student in this case. So in this life, there are certain obstacles which are like certain homework assignments. But if I take it as learning opportunities, then I will start seeing the mercy in there. This is what looking at it with Iman perspective means. So this life is a learning experience in the hands of a merciful teacher. Yes, any concluding remarks, any comments? Yes.
And just one reminder, again, about the style, the way we approach the topics. He's not imagining a creator who is so compassionate, so merciful, and creating things in a merciful way. Oh, let me do it this way so that Adil will like it. Right? But rather, starting from the things themselves, right? Adil sees that he likes something. He realizes that, whatever is given in front of me is there in a way that I like it. Right? My relationship with my child is not burdensome. Between us. But I enjoy. Right? He starts from there. He starts from the enjoyment and say, oh, whatever is creating this phenomena in front of me must be the one merciful. Same goes with things that we don't like as well. Right? If we start from the top and imagine a creator doing it this way or that way, when we see something we don't like with apparent ugliness, right, we cannot make sense. But if we follow the author's approach and say that, okay, forget about imagining an all-merciful God who's creating this killing of a child in front of me. How am I going to explain it? How an all-compassionate, all-merciful God can create something like this? If I start from there, I will end up nowhere. Right? Because I cannot imagine. I don't even know what I mean when I say all-merciful God. I can only understand that I see mercy there, or I don't, maybe, right? And what I do, I see something that I don't like, I don't enjoy, right? I start and I try understand the thing itself. The author, what it says, when you look at the rain, you don't like it, but think about the rain again. Through rain, these plants are watered. Through rain, these animals, right, are provided the food, water, etc. Just think about the rain. And then you realize, oh, this thing that I thought was bad, that I thought was ugly, actually has all these different aspects that are actually so beneficial, so beautiful. You can see this, you can do the same thing even with an earthquake, right? And the point is not trying to find some beautiful things so that this ugly thing will be covered up. The point is try to first understand what it is that in front of you. You look at the orchid or a volcano erupting. You say, okay, this is, this is something ugly because it destroyed things. But when you start thinking about it, you realize actually it is cleaning the way so that new type of creation, new type of creatures will benefit. The people who are studying volcanoes, like the things they say about how nutritious, what volcanoes leaves behind, how, the habitat that it, the causes is so beneficial for animals, etc., you will be amazed. The first thing you see is destruction, but even in this apparent destruction, you see how creation is there, beautiful creation there, right? The authors have studied the creation, see all these different aspects, and then you decide yourself whether it is something beautiful, merciful, or not. In other places, in other texts, author says, when you do that, you will even realize that this apparent ugliness you see it the first time, even that will become merciful, wise, and compassionate. But to see that, you have to study it. So always start from the creation, then you can make sense. Otherwise, everything will be so, the confusing, in constant conflict to each other.
And let's conclude by tying it to the very beginning. Oh, there's a comment. Sorry.
I understand the point. All the examples that you've brought up were natural system examples, right? Where I have no trouble accepting that. And that's, I guess that's just because as well, you always see nature as completely created by God. There's no problem in looking at how destruction brings growth and renewal. But what about, this might not be a conversation for today, it might be for another time, but how do you see that, how do you resolve that apparent ugliness when it's a choice, when it's free will, when it's a human deciding to go out of their way to hurt someone else? How do you resolve that apparent ugliness of Allah allowing free will to harm, to destroy, when, it can be potential, it can be pretty devastating for the person receiving it. I have my own. For me, I feel like I have to come up with a different set of rules to make sense of that. But I'm curious about what your opinion is. And again, it might not be, for this discussion, but just curious about what your take is on that.
So for this, if I may briefly, and I can leave it to you later on. So I would like to look at the past for a second. Let's say, because to be able to give an answer to this, really, I need to say, as you also mentioned, you said God allows free will. How I would read this is more so in the sense that I choose, but the creator also chooses to create the outcomes of it. Like I am choosing to harm someone, and the creator says, okay, I also choose to harm that person. Our reasoning and outcomes are different, but from your perspective, you want to harm that person. But from the creator's perspective, reasoning and outcomes are totally different, which I cannot encompass. But he says, okay, I'm going to create that. So from that person's point of view, it is a very narrow, single perspective, saying that I just want to harm that person. But when it comes to what does the creator will out of it, it's a totally separate question. Like, for instance, if you look at this, where I'm going to take it to past, like probably if we were living in the very early Meccan period, where there was a lot of tortures, which nowadays we can liken it to that period. A lot of tortures, a lot of like believers were being murdered, or they were just forced migration. Every sort of oppression was there. Somebody were willing to make those oppressions, and the creator created that as well. But as we are seeing how this had been so instrumental in establishing the message itself, because every single verse that was revealed in this background, and it was becoming meaningful within that background. So in a sense, to teach someone a point, like what was one of the earliest messages of the revelation, resurrection was an earlier message, right? So how would you understand, how would you digest the message of resurrection? Well, there are injustices, and this injustice apparently is not being totally addressed in this world, because Sumayya was murdered, and without she observing what happened to the murderers and whatnot, she passed away. So what's going to happen? Who is going to give what was her due? She's gone. So many such meanings we do learn in a classroom there, such things happen. So as we go forward and we realize some of those oppressors themselves became believers and whatnot, right? But what we are seeing is the teacher, who is the creator of all, is really creating such a coherent story, coherent, meaningful story, just like he creates a coherent story in this baby. Because initially this baby was a single cell, then there was multiplication of cells, and then also, what does it called? Controlled cell death, so that it became fingers. Like certain cells were killed so that it became a finger eventually. So as much as I observe that certain constructions and destructions are happening, and at the end a meaningful outcome is coming, I say, in order for this hand to become a hand, this hand gone through a long journey. And whomever made this hand as it is at this moment is making me go through some multiplications and cell death in my life, sometimes seeming good, sometimes seeming bad. Yes, a person having an ill will towards me is bad for that person, 100%. But if my creator creates that, what is my creator's will is a separate question. So his mercy, I would observe a merciful outcome when I look at it from Iman perspective. Iman perspective in this case means, what is the point behind this apparent ugliness? But Brother Birkan trying to harm me, he doesn't come with this lens. So I do not expect him to demonstrate this mercy. But beyond him, I can observe my creator's mercy. So this is why really the lens of Iman in that case is important. And I think the emphasis that Brother Birkan putting in here was important. He's saying lens of Iman in here doesn't mean assumption of a merciful God. Like if a merciful God exists, what would be his point? This is not what lens of Iman means. Lens of Iman or belief means, in the creation of my hand, in the making of my hand, I do observe mercy. In the making of this baby, I do observe mercy. Everywhere I do observe mercy. A meaningful creation, I do observe everywhere. It's a fact. So the maker, there must exist a merciful maker. And then I look at this ugliness. I say, what could be his purpose in here? What is he meaning by this? So it's not that I am entertaining or imagining a merciful. The merciful is manifesting everywhere already. Then observing this, I will go and look at this seemingly ugly thing and say, what is he teaching me or demonstrating me in here? So that one is really going to put things into perspective. Yes.
Maybe a few things. So at the beginning of text, the author said, to understand the mercy, one obvious way to understand the sustenance, he said, right? The making connections between different names. Sustainer, the merciful one. We can make similar connection with the wisdom as well. When we see wisdom, we observe mercy. There's a very close connection between them. And when we see something apparently ugly, one question we can ask, is there a wisdom there? Right? Is there a wisdom in whatever happening? But don't ask it in a way, again, starting from the top, oh, my creator, he's all wise, so there must be a wisdom. Yes, it can, help you relax a little bit. Maybe it can help you with, come to your senses, and then you can better understand. It has such a, at least, value. But to really reach to the conclusion or the peace and security of Iman, because Iman means security, right? Being amin, like, anyway. To reach this security, you should, again, study the thing itself. And the question should be, is there any wisdom that I can experience? Okay? That's one thing. Another thing, we also, the label things as good or bad based on our feelings. And this is normal. I will not say that, oh, don't label them based on your feelings. This is how we are. When I see something that I don't like, I say this is bad, right? Somebody comes and slaps a child, I say this is bad. Why? Because I feel bad. So we should stop and maybe correct ourselves a bit. I saw this child in this situation, and this feeling is created in me. It's not that I don't like it. You don't have control over your feeling, right? I was shown this image, and then I was created in a way, or I found myself in a way that I don't like this thing I see. I don't like children having pain, right? This feeling of not liking is given to me. Now things change, right? Now you can better understand whoever, right, showing me this thing in front of me, also telling me that this is not nice. You started seeing an instance of wisdom. At least now you understand that you shouldn't do it. Somebody is teaching you, right? This is the beginning of the wisdom. And then you will ask, is there any wisdom in the things itself? Like that this child experienced something. Is there a wisdom there too? And you will ask. And then you will explore to the extent you are serious about it. Okay? So we will always ask this question, is there a wisdom? Because the moment we see the wisdom, we will see the mercy. Right? Because with this feeling, again, not yours, but the feelings that is created in you, you are employed against this injustice as well that you observe. Right? You see another wisdom there. And this also, so it's merciful, right? You are employed in what? To prevent injustice. And by this way, you experience in the first hand what an injustice is and how the one who creates you prevents injustice, right? So just like, we keep giving the same example, but when you see a homeless person, when you give them money or whatever they want, right? You have extra drugs, you just, lend some. You firsthand experience that, wait a second, if it was left to me, I wouldn't do that. So there is someone who takes care of needs. And I know that firsthand that it's not me. Now you have the security that when you have need, that somebody or something will take care of you as well. First-hand experience is so strong, your belief now, right? The same way. When you are employed in preventing injustice, you have this firm understanding that the one who creates me is the just one. He does not, or it does not like injustice. Just like employing me now, when I am part of an injustice, he will employ something else as well. You have this firm grasp, the understanding now. Okay? Again, they question the thing itself, not the creator. You cannot. Why he's allowing this, why he's doing this, you don't have any answer. You cannot have any answer. But you can have answer about the thing itself. Okay? Final thing, I apologize for making it too long. We should not define some, what is it called, guardrails. Like with these AI models, they put all these guardrails so that they will not harm people, right? They prevent, for instance, them to talk about certain things, right? You ask a question and they say, oh no, I cannot talk about that. They want to prevent, for instance, a child have a suicidal thoughts, right? So the same thing, sometimes we do ourselves. We say, okay, I need the formula. I need a way, right, to answer such and such questions about my creator so that my belief will not be shaken. Right? Yes, this is good if you know yourself, like you have some weaknesses, some, into some domains. Don't go there. Yes, this is healthy. But at the same time, don't forget, without going there, you will not convince yourself that your creator all merciful. Unless you see wisdom and mercy in things, no matter what, you cannot believe that whoever created this is the merciful one. So if you want to have this belief, study, ask these questions.
We go with OpenAI. Is this a conclusion? Are we good? Any concluding remarks? سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم من الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة